Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 123. Shizun visits my dream, for he knows I think of him often. Zhao Dao Chang, Li Dao Chang, have you heard the news? The black horse that emerged at the Lingshan Mountain Conference is really something. Inside the Zhenzutan tea house, some wandering cultivators were talking over a dish of peanuts and a pot of hot tea about the current news that were hotter than the tea itself. Of course, I saw it coming a long time ago. The winner was a Shisheng Peak disciple of the lower cultivation world. I bet the old men of the upper cultivation world were so pissed off, especially those from the Rufeng sect. Ayo. I bet their ancestors must be turning in their graves. The winner of the recent Lingshan Mountain Conference is Xue Fenghuang, isn't it? Note, Fenghuang means phoenix. Ahahahahaha, Xue Fenghuang. Lao Zhao, you're killing me. Fenghuang is his nickname, his surname is Xue, given name is Meng, courtesy name Ziming, and his father is Xue Zhenyang. Like father, like son, this Xue Ziming skill is really impressive. Near the fireplace, there sat a tall man in a cloak who is sitting by himself, drinking his milk tea. Overhearing the excited conversation, the cup by the man's lips stilled and did not move again until he murmured a quiet hum. Well, they were not actually kidding when they called him son of a phoenix. All the other young masters came with a holy weapon, but he showed up with just a normal saber and he managed to stop all of them. That's pretty incredible. But then, don't you know who his master is? A disciple of Yu Heng of the night sky can't be anything but really good. Apparently it was a close win for Xue Ziming though. It was said that Xue Meng and Nangong Si were evenly matched. If it weren't for the lady with Nangong Si who had dragged him down during the doubles round. If it weren't for that, then victory or defeat could go either way. The man who had been listening to them heard these words, and finally put down his unfinished tea. He turned his head, his eyes were clear as frosty autumn water but looked sharp as lightning. He's quite good looking though, as he smiled to the group of cultivators and said to them, "Greetings fellow cultivators. I was cultivating up in the mountains for the past few days, and up there, I couldn't even tell what day it is already, so I totally missed the Lingshan Mountain Conference. I overheard you said that Xue Meng had topped the ranking and got curious. I was hoping you could answer a few of my questions." Those people were eager to have an audience. They hurriedly greeted Mo Ran warmly and made room for him to sit with them. Mo Ran knew how to mind his manners now. He has grown more mature since he left Shisheng Peak. He had asked the lady proprietress of the tea house to add 6 pots of Lingshan Miao and then ordered candied jujubes, tart kernels, sweet liquor cherries and snake gall melon seeds to share with everyone. Then he laughed and said, "Xue Ziming is the darling of the heavens. Even if he doesn't have a holy weapon, it's not too surprising he could beat everyone. But then you said that a lady was brought by Rufeng sect's Nangong Si for the double rune. Being a group of all men, they are more than willing to talk about ladies even if the lady is not related to them." "That is right. It's a case of a beauty burying the hero's aspirations. Otherwise, with Nangong Si's skills, Xue Ziming might not have gained the upper hand." "That's interesting. This result was not the same as in the previous life, when Ye Wangzi and Nangong Si had won first place in the Lingshan Mountain Conference. Mo Ran originally thought that Chu Wanning's death had spurred Xue Meng on, inspiring the young phoenix to overexert himself, but now it seems that the variables are not just those at Xue Meng's end. I wonder who might this lady be?" "The lady was named Song, something Tong. I don't remember exactly, but she sure is good looking though. I think that she had completely captured the Rufeng sect leader's son's heart. She's more than beautiful, she's extremely beautiful. If I were Nangong Si, instead of topping the ranking at Lingshan Mountain Conference, I'd rather keep the beauty happy." Mo Ran. Sure enough, the Lingshan Mountain Conference was divided into a single-player competition, a 2-player match, and a group battle, with the average score of all 3 rounds used to determine the final winner. In the previous life, Xue Meng and Shi Mei were pitted against Nangongzi and Ye Wangzi in the two-player match. Ye Wangzi had become the second strongest person in Jianghu, next only to Chu Wanning, so the result of that match was predictable. But in this life, heaven knows what's wrong in this lifetime for Nangongzi to bring someone like Song Kaiyutong to drag him down instead of Ye Wangzi. Mo Ran put down his tea and raised his hand to rub the corner of his forehead. I really don't know what that guy was thinking. Women. Even that wild horse Nangongzi was tamed in no time. One man sighed while everyone else laughed. Mo Ran couldn't resist asking, what about Ye Wangzi? Who? Mo Ran repeated, Ye Wangzi. The lack of recognition in their faces made Mo Ran's heart felt a little sad. How could they not know of this person who fought like a god of war and given him so much trouble in his past life? So, he gestured while explaining he's another disciple of Rufeng sect. Tall, good-tempered, he doesn't talk much. He wields a sword and, Mo Ran sighed at the blank look on everyone's faces, already vaguely aware of the outcome, but still finishing the last few words. And about. I don't know him. He can't be someone famous. Brother, who did you hear that from? At the Lingshan Mountain Conference the Rufeng sect sent out 16 disciples, none of whom were surnamed yet. It seemed that Ye Wangzi did not participate in the competition in this life. Mo Ran was silent for a moment and recalled that day in the restaurant when Ye Wangzi told Nangongzi, come back to the sect and I'll leave. Suddenly he felt a little uneasy and a little bit pained. This can't be true. Did Ye Wangzi really left the Rufeng sect? He remembered in his previous life how when Ye Wangzi was about to die, he told the executioner that he wanted to be buried at the Rufeng sect's tomb of heroes next to Nangongzi. Mo Ran sighed at how things had turned out, at how a tiny bit of subtle change of events had turned into a ripple of infinite proportions. That the sky could be turned upside down and the sea turned into mulberry fields. It turns out that the vicissitudes of destiny can be so turbulent that it takes a sacrifice of hot blood and bitter tears to bring back the prodigal son and release the former grudge. A great example of this is Chu Wanning to himself. But changes of fortune can be silent as well, as in the case of Ye Wangzi to Nangongzi. Perhaps it was on that same day at the inn when Nangongzi had allowed Ye Wangzi and his contingents to stay the night, he got thirsty. When he got up and had gone downstairs to get a pot of tea, he happened to meet poor Song Kaiyutong. Maybe Song Kaiyutong had poured him a glass of water, or maybe since her legs were bothering her at that time, she accidentally fell upstairs, who knows? Or maybe it was just that he drank recklessly and dribbled some onto his broad chest and she carefully offered him a handkerchief and Nangongzi simply thanked her for the gestures. But at that time, none of them knew that their life had been irrevocably changed with that handkerchief, that glass of water or that thank you. None of them heard the loud rumble of fate. Nangongzi yawned as he walked upstairs while Song Kaiyutong stood there, watching him go. And all this while Ye Wangzi was in his room reading an unfinished book by the candlelight. In the past life, Mo Ran thought that he was all-powerful and all-knowing, that he had understood the mystery of life and death. Only now did he realize that every one of them were all duckweeds adrift in this world, scattered by the rain and blown away by the wind. Just little green wisps of soul that could be smashed into pieces by a stone carelessly thrown from the shore. He had been lucky that when he had drifted away, he had managed to return back to Chu Wanning. He had been lucky that he could still show his filial piety to his Shizun and had still got his chance to say to Chu Wanning, I'm sorry, I failed you. He finished his tea and said his goodbyes to others. It was windy outside and rain was sure soon to follow. Mo Ran drew up his cloak and headed off into the hazelnut forest. His figure grew more and more distant, more and more vague, gradually becoming a small dot in the twilight, like a blotted ink stain in a pool of water, eventually fading into invisibility. Rumble! A thunderclap exploded in the gloomy sky, lightning crackled and the rain came like 1,000 horses. It's raining. Someone in the tea house looked out and retreated back due to the intensity of the thunder. A thunderstorm. Really? There's no one at home who can get the millet I laid out to dry under the sun. Sigh, it will all be soaked now. Ah, forget it. Madam Proprietress, another pot of tea please. We'll go home when the rain cleared up. Moran was sprinting under the rain, fleeing in the rain, hiding from the absurdity of the 32 years he spent in his previous life. He wondered if such a rainstorm could wash away all the evils he had committed. Chu Wanning had forgiven him, but he himself did not. His heart felt so heavy that he could hardly breathe. He was willing to spend the rest of his life doing good deeds to pay for all of it. But can the pouring rain of the rest of his life really wash away the sin in his bones and the filth in his blood? He hated the fact that he couldn't let the rain fall for 5 years straight. He wished that he can be a little bit cleaner so that when Chu Wanning woke up, he could stand in front of him a little bit less tainted. When that time came, he did not want to be as dirty as he is today, dirty as mud, dirty as dust, dirty as the grime at the bottom of a footman's shoe, dirty as the dirt under a beggar's nail. He just wanted to do better and be better before Chu Wanning woke up. This is the only way could the world's worst disciple may call out again to the world's best Shizun with some faint courage. That night, Moran fell ill. He had always been healthy and strong. However, when someone who had a strong constitution fell ill, he will be terribly sick. He lay in bed, covered with a thick quilt, and fell asleep. During the night he dreamed of his past life, of how he had tormented Chu Wanning, of how Chu Wanning struggled beneath him, of Chu Wanning dying in his arms. He woke up with a start amidst the howling wind and torrential rain outside. He fumbled around for the flint to light a candle, but no matter how many times he tried, the flint wouldn't spark. He threw the flint aside in a self-loathing manner, buried his face in his palms and rubbing it hard as he pulled at his hair in agony. The knot in his throat rolled and a beastly howl came from his throat. He escaped death, he escaped condemnation, but ultimately he could not escape his own heart. He was so scared that sometimes he couldn't tell the difference between dreams and reality. Sometimes he finds himself constantly confirming whether he was awake or asleep. It was very painful. He felt that his soul had split into two halves. Past and present lives, the two souls were tearing each other apart. One cursing at the other for their bloodied hands and heartlessness. The other, unwilling to be outdone, questioned the former what made him think he was so good that he thinks he deserved to live in this world. The soul of this life was cursing the soul of his past. Mo Weiyu, Taxian Jun, you scum. Why did you commit such atrocities? How am I supposed to pay back all of these? I want to start all over again. Why do you haunt me so, in my dreams, in my drunken stupors, in the dimming fading light, jumping out and catching me off guard with that twisted face of yours? Cursing me to death, cursing me with retribution and retaliation. You curse that these are merely dreams that one day will shatter and that I will wake up and found myself back at Wushan Palace all by myself. You viciously laughed while reminding me that I had no one who cares about me. That with my own hands, I had killed the only person who would be willing to die for me. But was that really him? No, it's not me, it's you, Taxian Jun. It's you. I am not like you, I am different from you. I have no blood on my hands, I had started all over again. The other half of the soul also hisses and screamed loudly. It opened its sharp-fanged mouth, its face was twisted. Weren't you feeling guilty? Didn't you make a mistake? Then why don't you go and die? Why don't you use your own blood to recompense those you've hurt in your previous life? Bastard! Hypocrite! What is the difference between you and me? I am Mo Weiyu and so were you. You carry the sins of your past life, you carry the memories of your past life, you can never get rid of me, I am you. I am the nightmare in your mind, the gods and goddesses of the heavens knocking at your rotten soul. Start over? The nerve. What makes you think you have the right to start over again? You keep the world in the dark, you have been keeping things from the people you love. You do all the good deeds you can just to ease that pathetic little guilt you feel. Ha! Mo Weiyu, do you dare let them know who you were in your previous life? Do you dare let Chu Wanning know that in the previous life, you cut his neck and slowly let him bleed to death? That it was you who made him prefer death over living? That it was you who made the world suffer excruciating hunger and endless sorrow? It was you. Ha 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 ha, you beast. I am you, you are me, you cannot escape, I am you. AHH. Mo Weiyu, I dare you to deny that. Driven to near to madness, Mo Ran went back to the edge of the bed to fumble with the flint, trying his best to light the candle and dispel the hideous darkness clawing at him with its black fingers. But the candle didn't like him, even the candle did not bother to save him. He was in the middle of darkness, his trembling hands grazed the flint again and again but no sparks came, nothing. He finally collapsed on his bed and burst into tears. He kept apologizing. In the dark night, he felt as if his bed was surrounded by people. That crowd were cursing him and viciously demanding his life, telling him how evil he was. Mo Ran didn't know what to do. He suddenly felt very helpless. He could only keep saying, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry," but nobody paid any attention to him. Nobody forgave him. His forehead throbbed and his heart burned like fire. Suddenly, he seemed to hear someone sighing softly. He opened his eyes and saw amidst the phantoms and shadows, Chu Wanning was coming. His appearance was the same as before. He wore white robes with wide sleeves, his features elegant and refined. He came over to him and walked up to his bed. Mo Ran stared and choked, "Shizun. I don't deserve to see you again." Chu Wanning didn't speak and only picked up the flint and torch. He then slowly lighted the candles that Mo Ran could not lit before. Wherever his Shizun was, there was fire. Wherever Chu Wanning was, there was light. He stood in front of the candlestick, his long, slender eyelashes drooping, and then raised his eyes to look at Mo Ran in silence before giving him a small serene smile. He said, "Go to sleep, Mo Ran. Look, the light is on now. You're no longer in the dark. There's no need to be afraid." Mo Ran felt as if something had crushed his heart, as if something heavy had hit his skull hard enough to crack it open. These words, these sentences. They felt very familiar, as if he had heard them before. But hard as he tried, he couldn't remember. Chu Wanning flicked his sleeves off to the side and sat on the edge of his bed. Outside, the cold rain continued to pour, but it was warm inside. "The dark night is gone," Chu Wanning said, "I will stay with you." Upon hearing these words, Mo Ran's heart ached as it clenched and twisted itself into a knot. "Shizun, please don't go." He held Chu Wanning's hand under his wide sleeve. "All right, I won't. It'll be dark again when you're gone." Mo Ran cried, feeling a little ashamed. He lifted his other hand and covered his eyes. "Please, don't leave me behind. I beg you. I really don't want to be an emperor anymore, Shizun. Don't abandon me. Mo Ran. Please." Perhaps it was the fever that made his brain somewhat dull and made him particularly vulnerable. Or maybe he knew in his heart that this was actually a dream of his own making and knew that when he woke up Chu Wanning would be gone, so he couldn't stop mumbling, "Please don't throw me away. Please don't leave me." That night, the cold rain pelted against the window like countless spirits banging against it, as if demanding entry into the room to claim his life. But in Mo Ran's dream, Chu Wanning lit the lamp and that little light dispelled the endless chill. Chu Wanning said, "It's all right, I'm not leaving." "You're not leaving." "I'm not." Mo Ran tried to say thank you, but only a whimper comes out of his throat. It was a pitiful sound of a dog trying to be pleasing but with a hint of resignation. "You all said you would not leave, that you wouldn't leave me behind." Mo Ran was nearly asleep, eyes only half opened as he continued his murmuring, "But in the end, I was not wanted. Nobody cares about me. I spent half my life as an abandoned dog. Everyone adopted me for just a few days and then abandoned me. I'm so tired. Really? Shizun. I'm really tired. I can't stand it. I can't go on anymore. Like a starving stray dog who lives on the wind, homeless with dirty fur and torn paws, and has to compete with beggars and feral cats for food in order to survive. He has been bullied for so long that he doesn't trust anyone anymore, that when he sees someone crouch down towards him, the domestic dog may think it's to feed him, but the abandoned dog only thinks someone is going to throw stones at it, so it will hurriedly walk away with anxiety while it grimaces. It was his life. Shizun, if one day you find that you don't want me anymore, please just kill me instead of just throwing me away. He choked back a sob as he whispered. The feeling of being abandoned again and again is so unbearable that I'd rather die. His fever burned so high that his mind turned into a muddled mess until he didn't know where he was and gradually lost track of who the person in his dream was. Mother. Before falling asleep, he said one last thing, it's getting dark, I'm afraid. I want to go home. End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 124. Shizun awakens. The flowers bloomed and fell. The barrier outside the Red Lotus Pavilion flowed with a fragmented light regardless of whether it was morning or evening time. The people inside don't come out and the people outside won't be able to come in. 5 years passed in the blink of an eye. The world turned just like a carousel, day changed into night and months into years. In tea houses, in the history books, those years turned into pieces of stories, into lines written onto books. Looking back on the past. During the first year of Chu Wanning's seclusion, his disciple Mo Ran went down the mountain while Shuemeng and Shimei was left at the Shisheng Peak, each cultivating on their own. That year, Mo Ran's calligraphy hadn't gotten much better than the previous ones. Shuemeng had broken through to the 9th stage of the quiescence blade and Shimei went to study the healing arts at Gai Yuye's sect at the end of the year. During this year, Mo Ran went to the Chang family, a salt merchant in Yizhu, to visit young Master Chang for personal matters, only to find out that young Master Changda had died a few days ago. In the underworld, Mo Ran learned that young Master Chang had colluded with the fake Gushan and wanted to find more information. He had wanted to investigate, but who knew that the other party had already killed them to silence him. Even the corpse had been burned to ashes. And therefore, this route turned into a dead end. In the second year of Chu Wanning's seclusion, the Lingshan Mountain Conference was held. Shuemeng got first place, Mei Hangxia got second place, and Nangong Si got the third place. Shimei attended to the sick and injured in the lower cultivation world while Mo Ran traveled through the northern part of the Jiangnan Desert, exterminating demons and doing good deeds along the way before returning to the mountains to cultivate, disappearing without a trace. In the third year of Chu Wanning's retreat, was the ghost year when the mortal realm was teeming with yin energy. The barrier at Kaidi town where the bloody battle happened had weakened, enabling the evil spirits and ghosts to enter the mortal realm and terrorized the common people. Shuemeng led the disciples from Shisheng Peak to suppress them. Although the situation was not as bad as it was during the Heavenly Rift, the lower cultivation world still suffered a disastrous year full of misery and desolation. In order to protect themselves, each of the 9 major sects of the upper cultivation world dispatched 100 disciples to guard the borders of the upper and lower cultivation worlds and built a barrier effectively preventing both the evil spirits and the refugees from moving towards the east. The poor fugitives from the lower cultivation world who had nowhere to go to was kept outside this barrier as it was fortified against ghosts as well as people. So, while it was peaceful within, corpses littered the ground just outside the barrier. Xue Zhenyang repeatedly tried to negotiate with the upper cultivation world but to no avail. That year, the blood shed by the disciples of the Shisheng Peak at Kaidi town all flowed eastwards. At the end of the year, Mo Ran, who was in seclusion in the mountains, received a letter from his uncle. He learned that Shizun was in turmoil and thus he went back to the world. In the 4th year of Chu Wanning's seclusion, Mo Ran and Xue Meng fought side by side. The two young masters of Shisheng Peak led the fights to vanquish the ghosts and demons terrorizing the mortal realm. At the face-off at Kaidi town, Xue Meng killed over 1,000 demons and drove out hundreds of ghosts while Mo Ran repaired the barrier to seal them off all by his own powers alone. After this battle, the upper cultivation world finally put down the barrier and allowed the people from the lower cultivation world to enter their realm. Xue Meng and Mo Ran became famous overnight. Xue Meng, known as the son of a phoenix, earned a prestigious reputation while Mo Ran, who had repaired the barrier at Kaidi town with similar techniques as that of Chu Wanning, was started to be referred to as Grand Master Mo. The days passed as it turned into years. After the competition at Lingshan Mountain, although Xue Meng had gained a good reputation, he didn't get complacent as when he was younger. As long as he was free, he would diligently train and meditate in the bamboo forest. He remembered his Shizun's words that even without a godly weapon, the proud son of heaven was still a proud son of heaven. He would just have to pay more blood and sweat to make up for the difference. Sometimes he would gracefully fall on ground of the bamboo forest after performing a set of exercises with his saber. As the sunlight penetrated through the leaves, he would turn his head sideways and occasionally would imagine a small figure sitting by the rock, blowing whistling sounds with the bamboo leaves. It reminded him of the day when a smaller Chu Wanning watched him practiced with his sword in this very bamboo grooves, instructing him with the rhythm of the whistle as to when to pick up the pace and when to slow down. Xue Meng tilted his head to recall the melody which seemed to be right next to his ear. He closed his eyes as he reminisced. When he opened them again, he saw a piece of a withered bamboo leaf falling from the sky. Suddenly, a flash of a saber's blade was reflected in his eyes as it extended and retracted with intent in swift succeeding strikes. When Long Cheng was withdrawn, he stood up straight. The dried up leaves had already been cut into thousands of threads, silently falling beside his boots. When he lowered his head, it seemed that he was still that immature and impatient young man of that time. But when he looked up, his brows were straight and his clear, steady gaze were like the rushing river as it reaches the sea or a lake, the turbulent water becoming calm as it flows to the vast expanse of space. 5 years have passed. Xue Meng held Long Cheng and wiped the frosty blade with a white cloth. Just as he was about to sheath his saber, he suddenly heard the sound of hurried footsteps coming from afar. A disciple was rushing over as he called out, "Young master! Young master! What is it?" Xue Meng frowned. "Composed yourself. Why are you panicking? What's the matter?" Red Lotus Pavilion. This disciple ran until he was out of breath. His face was bright red, and he panted heavily, "Master! Master! Huizhui! Huizhui has left." Elder Yuheng had woke up. With a clang, the veteran of 100 battles Long Cheng was unceremoniously dropped to the ground. Xue Meng's handsome and fair face suddenly turned pale. His lips opened and closed, and in the end, he did not even remember to pick up his own weapon as he rushed to the southern peak as if he was flying, almost tripping over a rock on the way as he staggered and stumbled. "Shizun! Shizun! Shizun!" Xue Meng, who had just lectured others on their lack of composure, totally lost his in a blink of an eye. When he reached the Red Lotus Pavilion and was entering the main hall, he saw Xue Zhenyang striding out from inside. When he saw his son heading over like a desperate man, Xue Zhenyang grabbed him with a big smile on his face. Xue Meng called out exasperatedly, "Father! All right, all right, all right. I know that you want to see Yu Heng." Xue Zhenyang laughed, but he had just woke up and lacked the energy to do anything yet. So, he fell asleep after talking to me for a short while. I'm sure you wouldn't want to disturb your Shizun's rest. Xue Meng paused and then murmured, "That is true, but the 5 years had been too long and he had so much to say to his Shizun. He wanted to tell him how he had won first place in the Lingshan Mountain Conference, that he had suppressed 100 ghosts, that he had. Come now, be sensible." This phrase "be sensible" was Xue Meng's weak points and would always effectively convince him to listen and obey. He let out a long and hard sigh, and although his steps stopped, he stretched his neck forward trying to see past his father's bulky figure behind the slightly opened door and see the person lying on the bed. Xue Meng pursed his lips, still a little reluctant. "I'll just go in for a little while and see Shizun. I won't say a word." "Oh? I happen to know that when you're happy, you can't help but raise a ruckus." Xue Zhenyang glared at him as he continued, "When you came back from winning the Lingshan Mountain Conference, you acted all calm and collected in front of outsiders, but as soon as you got home, you hollered for 4-5 straight days to everyone how you had kicked Nangong Si off the back of his Fei Wolf. Until now, even Antli from Menpo Hall could recite the exact words you said. And you want me to believe that when you get in, you won't say anything. Fine." Xue Meng was wilting. "Father is right. Of course. When was I ever wrong?" Xue Meng bristled but could not help but ask curiously, "Father, how is Shizun?" "Quite good actually. Master Huizhui even managed to get rid of the residual poison from Zaixin Lu. Does this mean that Shizun won't turn into Xiaoshidi anymore?" "Haha, not anymore." Xue Meng scratched his head, feeling vaguely disappointed that he would never see Xiaoxini again. "So, is everything else all right, too? Is he feeling any discomforts?" "Don't worry, everything seems to be fine. If anything, he looked a bit paler than normal when he found out he'd been asleep for long 5 years." Xue Zhenyang smiled as he thought of Chu Wanning's expression. "Luckily he didn't have too much energy yet, otherwise I think he would have dragged me along and asked so many things." Yes. He suddenly thought of something and said to Xue Meng, "Meng I need you to do something. Your master has been on isolation from the world for so long that he has missed a lot of things. If we try to just tell him everything that has happened, we will get tired of talking and he will get tired of listening. So go and ask your mother for some silver and go down to Vuchame town to buy some books. Look for some of those chronicle types booklets that details all the happenings in the world, big or small. Get him a couple of those, will you?" Xue Meng could practically hear the ulterior motive behind his father's words. This wily old fox of a father thought he was being too noisy and wanted him off from the mountains for a while. But then he thought, this errand is for his Shizun and therefore he really didn't mind doing it. In any case, Shizun was sleeping again. He was not confident that he could keep himself in check and not wake him up if he entered Shizun's room. Sighing, Xue Meng grudgingly muttered, "I'll buy the books then. Get him different ones from both the upper cultivation world and the lower cultivation world. Yu Heng likes to read anyways." "All right." So, Xue Meng dejectedly walked down the mountain by himself. Xue Meng was not an avid reader himself, so when he got to the bookstall in Vuchame town, he looked around and realized he couldn't tell which is which from the titles alone. So, he squatted down and asked the stall owner, "Uncle, do you have any reading materials that chronicles all the happenings in Jianghu for the past few years? I need some of them." Although the stall owner did not recognize that this person was Xuemeng, the so-called son of a phoenix, he was still extremely excited. He enthusiastically said, "The young cultivator wants a book about the recent happenings in Jianghu? Of course, I have them. I have loads of them, from the historical chronicles to unofficial adaptations including biographies, regional histories, genealogies of demon subjugation, and even the manuscripts of 10 of the most famous storytellers in the martial arts world. Which one does the young cultivator prefer?" When Xuemeng heard this, his head began to ache. He waved his hand and said, "You can all bring it over. Money is not an issue. For business people, the most pleasing words in the whole wide world is not 'I like you' or 'I love you' or 'I want you,' but rather 'I'd buy it' or 'money is not an issue' or 'I'll get everything." The stall owner immediately beamed. He immediately started picking out books from the collection that Xuemeng wanted, leaving him with nothing better to do, so he casually flipped through the stalls. He suddenly found a thin booklet that piqued his interest. On the page he opened, the following were written. List of the wealthiest people in the cultivation world. First place, Zhang Shi. Position, sect leader of Gaiyuye sect of Linling Isle. Second place, Nangang Lu. Position, sect leader of Rufeng sect of Linyi. Third place, Ma Yun. Position, palace master of West Lake Dobeo. So on and so forth. The entire page was filled with small calligraphy. Xuemeng immediately became excited. He especially wanted to know where in the list he was, so he went back and forth on this page 4 or 5 times. He almost became cross-eyed and still could not find the 2 words Xueziming. He immediately became dejected and angry. When he thought about it, he felt indignant. He turned the page and was about to continue looking for it. However, when there were only 3 or 4 names left, he read the following lines that said, "The amount of effort needed to compile this ranking is limited. Only the top 100 will be included in this ranking and those below would be omitted." Xuemeng angrily threw the book away. "Is this young master that poor?" The stall keeper was taken aback by Xuemeng's action. Then he looked at the booklet he was reading, he picked it up and said soothingly, "Don't be angry, young master. This type of the rankings was compiled by folks for fun and are always in a mess. Moreover, the rankings differ from one region to another. If you buy this type of book in Linyi, the first gentleman on the list will definitely be Nangang Lu. It's just something to pass the time, so don't be angry, all right? Don't be angry." Hearing him say this, Xuemeng also felt that his words made some sense. Moreover, he was still very curious about the other contents of the booklet. Thus, he snorted and took the booklet from the vendor's hand and casually flipped through more pages. This time, he saw an even weirder ranking. List of the most egoistical young masters. End chapter.